Hi, everybody. This is Zen Honeycutt of Moms Across America. This is our Monday night Moms Across America Connect Call, Moms Connect Call. And this is August. Sorry, I have to check the date again.
27th.
27th. Thank you so much. August 20th. Time is going so fast. There's so much going on. And it's very exciting to get together every week. Our mission is to empower millions to educate themselves about GMOs and related toxins, to offer GMO-free and organic solutions, and through supporting local leadership, we create healthy communities together. And that means that we give out flyers, support, training, calls like this, social media, of course, campaigns, letters, all kinds of talking points, all kinds of things that you can use to have your town be toxin-free, to have your food be clean, safe, healthy, and your families and your communities also to be healthy. So we're really excited about what we're doing. We're seeing some tremendous progress, and that's all due to people like you who speak up, who give out flyers, who say, I'm going to buy organic today, and who do at least one thing a day. Some of you probably many, many more things in order to have healthy communities. So as we get started, I'm just going to have people who are on the call just to say their name and their city and their state, where they're from. And then if you have a question you want to ask later, just let me know. So just say I have a question to ask at the end. So I'll write your name down and I'll allow time at the end to get to questions and anything like that. Okay. So Julie, can you say hi?
Hello, everybody. Julie Bjornson. I am in Stuart, Florida, Martin County, which is now a national emergency because of toxic algae bloom.
You have a meeting on there?
Yes. Thank you. And let's see, I'm going to need to, and if you just got on, could you mute, please? Okay, Kat, can you say hi?
Hi.
Kat, where are you from, Kat?
I'm from Hemet, California.
That's right.
County.
That's right. Hi, Kat. Thanks so much for being on. And Isabel.
Hi, I'm Isabel from Roxbury, Connecticut, and I do have a question for you later, please. And I just picked up my dad today from the airport. He came from Venice, Florida, at home, so I just took him in for however long it's going to take. It's terrible what's going on over there. Very sad.
So you cut out a little bit, but I'm getting that you took in your father because it's so toxic down in Florida right now that he has to get out of the area. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Very tough.
I'm not sure why the cut call. Can you hear me? Like, am I talking?
Yes. Yeah. You're fine now. It just was earlier. It cut out for a little bit.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Great. And let's see, Diane. When I say your name and where you're from, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Diane, and I live in Lake Forest, Florida. California. I'm from Florida. I just moved here. I keep putting Florida on everything. So I live out here in California, and I think, Zen, you live out here somewhere, don't you?
I live probably a couple streets away from you. I'm in Mission Viejo.
I just left Laguna Niguel Tuesday.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So you're not too far away. I used to live in Lake Forest. Great.
Oh.
Awesome. So we're neighbors now. Very cool. Okay. And David, it's actually Frankie. Can you talk? Or are you just going to do chat? We'd love to hear you. Okay. Detroit. Frankie's from Detroit. Okay. I can't see this chats right now, but hang on. Yeah, Frankie using David's computer. Okay. Great. And then, Richard Talk to Me guy is on, but I don't see you right now. Maybe he dropped off.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Do you want to say where you're from?
Sure. I'm from Northern California, up north of San Francisco.
Great.
Sonoma County. And I do have a question for later, but I have to go produce a show, so I typed it to you in chat privately.
Okay. Would you like me to address it now?
Sure. It has to do with, you see the question. Go ahead.
It says, I have had a run-in with a groundskeeper that keeps quoting the standard rules and regulations about Roundup. I'd like to give him some info to help clarify, and I just want to drop by and see if you might address this post-trial. Oh, yeah, great question. So this is exactly what the whole conversation is about. We tend to talk about this every meeting, but people bring different challenges to the table, and that's what I wanted to address today was what challenges are you facing in having your town be glyphosate free? Because we have a lot of ammunition now, so to speak, under our belt. You know, we have press releases, we have talking points. So I'm just going to bring us on over to there and show you what we have in just a second. And so that you can see what is available and what type of things you can print out and give to this person or send a link to him. Okay. So I'm just going to screen share so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so if you go to action right here on our website, momsacrossamerica.com or .org, either one, and you go down here to Toxin Free Town Campaign, you can see many of the talking points that we have. So we have things like this, the press release for the lawsuit against Monsanto. So anybody who is not aware of it now probably just hasn't been watching the news, but you could print this out. I mean, we've been on CBS and, you know, it's been on ABC, NBC, everywhere. So here's the press release of the lawsuit. If this looks too wordy, there are talking points and other things, but this is important because this was a lawsuit. And as Kat Fury said recently, they now have 289.2 million reasons to stop using glyphosate. And that is, you know, the judgment of the verdict, $289.2 million. So I think that this is a good place to go. Then we also have 10 alternatives to Roundup. And this document was created by the law firm, one of the law firms that sued. And I added in pictures and some additional alternatives to Roundup. So it was originally called, the document was called, Is There a Safe Alternative to Roundup? And I added the name 10 alternatives to Roundup on it. And so it says why you should use alternatives, 10 types of alternatives to Roundup, which is very useful, and what you'll need for an alternative herbicide, tips, and then the benefits, which is really wonderful. So these are some great places, great documents to go to. And we also have scientific studies under data right here. Scientific studies, if you want to have particular studies in a particular area, let's just say the one on shortened gestation. So that's under data as well. There's a lot of, there's also, this is really great, the glyphosate town hall talking points. And there's a letter to county and ag commissioners. So these should probably, I need to update some of these letters because, you know, including the lawsuit. Sorry, I need to get to that. We've been a little busy. And then I also need to update my toxin-free town map because we have had some success. So I'll get to that in a little bit. We have some a news piece to show. So this is where you can go for a lot of information. You can also go to, I believe it's called Non-Toxic Neighborhoods now. It used to be Non-Toxic Irvine. And you can also go to Beyond Pesticides. They have some great information on what you can use as far as materials to hand out. Basically, if you're just talking to somebody about it and they say, oh, it's safe, you know, the EPA, this and this is safe and that and all of that, I usually just say, yeah, I totally understand. You know, like I know how you feel. I do the feel, felt, found, right? I know how you feel. I felt the same way. I actually suggested to my dad that he pour Roundup in the pond when he wanted me to pull the weeds out of the pond. And, you know, I felt the same way, that Roundup was safe. And we've been told that. It's been on TV commercials and all of that. But you know what I found out? I found out that it's actually not as safe as it's claimed. And there's just been hundreds, if not thousands of news, over, you know, close to 1,000 studies now on the harms of not just Roundup, but many of the toxic chemicals like arsenic is in Roundup, you know, heavy metals are in Roundup. And so you just point out that things have changed, right? Just like when people talk about vaccines, the vaccine schedule has changed, right? It's not what it used to be. So things have changed, and that sort of gives them like oh, okay. So you're not saying that they're wrong. You're just saying that things have changed, and you want to give an opening, for them to look into what those changes are. And you can just leave it at, I can send you some studies if you like, or I can give you this flyer, or, I'd love to talk about it. There's this great document that has 10 alternatives to Roundup. Would you like to know some, alternatives that you can use? And they'll probably say, yeah, I guess so. Or maybe he'll say, no, I'm not into that. And then maybe just let him know, well, I'd love to follow up with you. I'll send you a quick email, and just take a look at it when you have a chance. Okay. So just follow up with him anyway and give him some alternatives, because it is happening. And I want to show you. Any other questions about that? Some things that you can say to him? Anybody else have anything you want to add? Okay. And let me share. Hang on a second, actually. So we've got our, oh yeah, Julie, let me unmute you.
Okay, I do letters to the editor. I just sent one in about it was about warning the public. Who will warn the public was the one I just sent in. And so it hasn't been published yet, but I can send you a copy of what I wrote if you like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe we can put that up too as an example, letters to the editor. That's a great way to do it.
And then I did a presentation to the Board of County Commissioners as well on Tuesday. So that was 9 talking points that I laid out. So if you want those, I'll share them.
Yeah, that's great. We always love to see those. We also have talking points on our website under, Toxin Free Town campaign for a town hall. So if you have some that we didn't have, I'd love to add them in there. Okay, and and a great way to do that is to go to your town hall or your city commissioner or your Orange County, like your county supervisor or superintendent, whatever it's called, and have those talking points and print out a couple different copies and give them to the other people that show up that are sort of on your new team, so if there's 6 people, and give each person 3 each. So then they also have a little leeway and a little time to say whatever they want to say. Like, for instance, one woman showed up and at our meeting in Mission Viejo and said, I'm pregnant. I'm going to give birth in 6 months, and I would like Mission Viejo to be safe for my baby by the time he gets here. That's very motivating. You don't have to have tons of scientific facts and, rattling off a bunch of studies. You can give them to them, which we've done. I have a whole binder full of flyers if you'd like to print them all out, and that can be impressive to give them to the city council, but you don't have to have those. So, but the talking points really are useful, because you do want to make sure you want to cover different areas. Like, for instance, Roundup it's been shown to be an endocrine disruptor, and that means to halt or harm the development of a fetus. It's been shown to, be a chelator, which means it holds or makes unavailable the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches. It's been shown to be an antibiotic, destroying the beneficial gut bacteria and the microbes in the soil. It's been shown to cause liver disease at very low levels, levels that are lower than in our food. And 1 out of 10 Americans now have liver disease. And it's been shown to be a probable carcinogen, amongst many other things, liver and kidney damage and all kinds of organ damage. So you want to be able to make sure to touch upon at least some of those really important points as far as the health concerns go, and not just say that it's a carcinogen, right? Because there are many other ways that it can impact health. So I'm showing you now that, go ahead. Somebody want to say something?
I was going to say, if you're at the town hall meeting, which is usually run by a bunch of good old boys, don't forget the sperm.
Oh yeah, so it also impacts sperm quality. Yeah, and our fertility rates have gone down dramatically, so you can mention that. Yeah, under data on our website, there are some very important articles. Maybe we should put a few of them in bold, just so that you can print out maybe the top 6 articles to print out. Yes, Diane, let me unmute you. Hang on a second. Hang on, go ahead.
Hi, I would like for everybody listening to look up the studies done by Stephanie Senna.
Yes, they're on our website. There's many of them on our website. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've spoken with her personally about our product too, and because she's done so many studies on glyphosate. And did you know this? Mm-hmm. This is her prediction: 1 out of 2 children will have autism by the year 2032 due to glyphosate. And not only that, they've checked all autistic kids. Well, not all of them, I suppose. But the majority of autistic children have very, very, very low glutathione, which is the master antioxidant in our bodies. and it produces itself. It recreates itself, and it's an antioxidant. Kills all your free radicals and everything. They have none. They have very, very little glutathione in their livers. Isn't that odd? So the glyphosate is definitely a contributor of that. The lack of it, and the lack of magnesium is another reason why the nutrients run deep, is because of the Roundup that's sprayed. The first thing to go, the first thing to dive deep is magnesium. And that
Right.
is, that is what we need. That's the mineral of life. Everybody needs it. A plant, a human, an animal, a fish, it doesn't matter.
Yes, and glyphosate's a chelator, so it draws out those vital minerals and nutrients, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And it also disrupts the balance of the vitamins and minerals. I mentioned in an earlier Moms Connect call that there was a man who tested baby teeth, toddler teeth, for different heavy metals and minerals, and he could predict over 85% accuracy the children that had autism because they had higher levels of copper. And when you have low levels of zinc, which is what glyphosate chelates, the copper goes out of whack, and the copper gets much higher. And so the majority of children, maybe all, I don't know, but the majority of children that have autism have very high copper levels and other heavy metals. So that's another factor, is the imbalance. It's not just depleting one, but it's, affecting the balance, just like in the gut bacteria. When you affect the balance of what's going on in the body, you throw things out of whack, and then the body tries to compensate, or just everything gets thrown out of whack. Your hormones get out of whack, all kinds of stuff. So, okay. So thank you very much, Diane. I'm going to talk a little bit about the OC cities swishing over, and then show you a nice video that I came across with and doing the research for this call. So these are older articles. This is 2017, right? So this is a year ago. So this has been, people have been working on this now for probably 2 years in a lot of areas, right? Trying to get Roundup out of parks and playgrounds. So this is in OC cities should stop spraying Roundup. It's been making the news, for quite some time. And then Huntington Beach went this was in the LA Times. Sorry, I've got my new app that puts pages to sleep, so it takes a little second. So Huntington Beach to test organic pesticides in Central Park. This was also a year ago. The recent news is that Huntington Beach has bought 4 of the steam weed control machines, and they are no longer using glyphosate. And that was just since the trial, the verdict. So that is fantastic news. And then we have, let's see, Marin County area, Novato, and I got to take this app off. So Novato halts glyphosate use, joining the Marin trend. So Novato and Marin, and now Benicia, which is Dwayne Lee Johnson's hometown is Benicia. So they have all banned glyphosate, which is fantastic. And then I'm going to show you this little video, which I thought was really good coverage, and something that you could possibly show your city managers or landscapers, right? So let me just turn this on. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Hang on a second. So 2 Bay Area cities go Roundup free following a cancer ruling. And it should play in just a second here. This was on ABC 7. Sorry about the commercials.
There's still no sounds in.
Oh, there's no sound?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you for telling me. I'm going to rewind this. Maybe it's because, Hang on.
Right now, you can get my Munchie Mashups for just $3.
Is that better? Can you hear now?
Hash brown.
Okay, sorry, it's because I had headphones in.
Mashed up with your choice of savory egg and bacon, buffalo chicken and ranch, or jalapenos and bacon. Try my $3 Munchie Mashups, back for a limited time, only at Jack in the Box.
North Bay cities are no longer using Roundup weed killer following a ruling against the manufacturer Monsanto. Earlier this month, a jury awarded a former Benicia School District groundskeeper with terminal cancer $289.2 million. ABC 7 News reporter Katie Eunice has more on a new organic approach.
These small faces are a huge motivation for Nevada's mayor, Josh Friday.
There's a saying that you put your money behind your values, and in our community, we value the environment. We value protecting our children.
In an effort to do so, the city will no longer use the weed killer Roundup or products containing the chemical glyphosate.
The World Health Organization did declare Roundup carcinogenic quite a while ago.
It's a victory for groups like Sustainable Nevada that have advocated against potentially dangerous chemicals for years.
But the truth is you can't put a price tag on your children's health and the health of your pets and loved ones.
This month, the jury did put a price tag on one man's terminal cancer, awarding a former Benicia School District groundskeeper $289.2 million. Dwayne Lee Johnson sprayed the weed killer in bulk 30 times a year. 2.5 years into the job, a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
This is way bigger than me. So hopefully this thing will start to get the attention that it needs to get right so folks can make a good choice.
Monsanto, the makers of Roundup, say they'll appeal.
The verdict today, it doesn't change the overwhelming scientific evidence and the 40 years of glyphosate around the world.
This was in the works prior to the ruling, but we wanted to make sure, because of the ruling, that our community knew that we were taking these steps.
Now the city is seeking volunteers to help the handful of public works groundkeepers pull weeds. Nevada's Hamilton Smart Station is a perfect example of this type of landscaping. Let me show you. Volunteers do organic gardening here, pulling weeds, putting down mulch, and using recycled water.
You know, if we all do a little bit, it adds up.
The city of Benicia has also gone glyphosate free.
Isn't that exciting? Hang on a second. Isn't that exciting? Very awesome. Okay.
Very exciting.
Very exciting.
Yes. Wait, no, stop making noise. Okay. Great. Awesome. So yeah, very exciting news. This is happening all across the country, and we're absolutely thrilled. We think at some point we're going to lose count of how many. It's not going to be, news anymore. Press releases are not going to get published because there's just so many towns that are doing this. But I think it behooves any town to do a press that has done this to do a press release, because it has your residents feel safer, and I think it'll increase land value and real estate value, and is a really important thing to let everyone know. So Frankie's saying public interpretation for some means Johnson & Johnson was sued. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Article. Okay. Sorry. I'm not following the chat right now. So somebody needs to unmute and let me know what's going on if you need some links. What's up?
Could you have the article linked somewhere? Are they on Facebook?
You mean for this?
All three that you showed the
okay,
video.
Sure. Yeah, let me, we always post these things on Facebook, so it will eventually be on our Facebook page, but I can just give you this one. This one was really great, wasn't it? The news piece? Yeah, so I'll put that up there. The other two were older. They were from 2017. So I'd rather just post this new one. Those were just examples of people who've been working on this for a long time, and now it's happening, and we are super, super excited. So I saw on Facebook somebody posted, you know how you can make a square and it the whole thing fills up? One person posted, I used to use Roundup, now I don't want to, what do I use? And I was like, yes! That's all we need to see, So I posted the link to our Toxin Free Town campaign, with the 10 alternatives to Roundup, and I'm just seeing more and more of that every day. So it is, it's really exciting. So, okay, didn't I post the link here? No. Okay, hang on a second. Post to everyone. There we go. So you have the link to that that piece. Okay. So any other questions about any other challenges that you're facing? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer now to stop using glyphosate. Okay, Diane's got a question, and because we have the lawsuit and all the alternatives, right? But go ahead, Diane.
You know, just to give it a brief history, glyphosate was created to clean boiler rooms.
Yes, yeah, we know.
I work with,
yep.
his best friend, his father invented it. He's passed away by now, but it was invented to clean boiler rooms. And before any of these pesticides or herbicides were created, we didn't need anything because everything worked economically underneath, right? Ecologically. But now that there were GMOs created, that ecological system messed up, and now everything is off kilter, like you were saying about our bodies. Everything's off kilter now, and that's what happens in the soil. Therefore, you don't get the proper nutrients. But I'll tell you what, once you get your once you get your soil back to its natural potential, you won't get pests. So you won't need pesticides, and that's what we do. You won't need them. And you know what? You won't need herbicides, fungicides, pesticides eventually.
Yeah, that's great. And Diane's talking about they have a product which I don't know about, and we're going to take a look at it later, and maybe we can do a follow-up conversation with it, and another one when we can take a look at it. So it's very exciting to know that there is a lot of innovation happening out there with companies that are developing things that help the soil. There's mushrooms, there's all kinds of sort of prebiotic type things that you can apply to the soil to help recover it. Some of them involve humic and fulvic acid. Some of them are like restore for gut health, but for the soil. So there's a lot of things that you can do to replenish the soil, as well as using permaculture as well. Was there something else, Diane?
Overseas, they've been using biostimulants for years.
I'm sure we've been using them here as well.
We just got introduced to them in the past 10 years. They've been doing it for a long time, but we are really finally catching on that we don't need these pesticides. The biostimulants is what they need. So anyway, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it. And just for perspective, Rudolf Steiner, I believe, created the biodynamic label. They have not been using herbicides and pesticides for, very long time. Natural Korean farming has been around for probably 1,000-something years. There's been, alternative methods being used for a very long time. So it's just a matter of a farmer choosing to not go to an herbicide in order to, for weed control, and look at the soil and what's happening in the environment instead. And that absolutely can happen. So any other challenges people are facing? Yeah, hang on a second with Julie.
Do you want me to talk, or you want Lori? Lori had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see everybody because I don't have let me put it in gallery view. There we go. I'm sorry. Hi, Lori.
Okay. Hi, Zen.
Joanna, and there's other people on now. I didn't see you all. Okay. So do you want to go first then, Lori? Go ahead.
Sure. I just wanted to take it back to that guy's comment about how they have all these studies that say that it's safe. And the fact that all those studies are based on studies that they used rats when the control group itself was getting contaminated with glyphosate because it was in the rat chow. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So we have all this stuff on our plates from false studies.
Yes. Excellent point. Yeah. So what she's saying is, in every scientific study, you need to have a control group, right? A group that is not being exposed to that chemical or that vaccine or that drug or whatever, right? They don't have any exposure to it at all. Then you have the test group where they are being exposed to it. And oftentimes they have groups where they're being exposed to a little bit, and then medium amount, and then a lot, right? Or they're being exposed to it through injection, or they're being exposed to either their food or their water, right? Or they're being exposed to on their skin. Like there's different ways that you can be exposed to it. However, what they discovered was that the control groups and the test groups were both being fed food that contained glyphosate. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that when the control group shows to have, say, 6 out of 12 of the rats that develop some tumors, they can just say, oh, well, that group is prone to tumors. And then when the test group has 6 or maybe 7 or 8 rats that develop tumors, they can just say, oh, well, it's not a statistically statistically significant number compared to the control group, right? If there's only 2 more rats that get cancer than this group, that's not statistically significant, and it's not worth reporting on. And that means that the control group, what they were exposed, the control group versus the test group, that this chemical is safe. If it's not statistically significant, they deem it to be safe. So it's very important. Yes, Lori, thank you for bringing that up, to understand that their studies are not valid, showing that. In addition, in the lawsuit, their lawyer, I believe it was, his name is Lombardi. I believe it was Lombardi, George Lombardi, said when they were referring to the toxicology studies that were done on rats, he was trying to basically throw all those studies out the window in the jury's brain by saying, is a rat study really going to show us that Johnson's cancer was, lymphoma was caused by Roundup? I don't think so. Like, as if a rat is not comparable to a human being. So let's just throw out all the studies that show, tumors or toxicology on rats. So that means, hello, all the studies that you have showing safety on rats should also be thrown out if you're going to go along those lines of thinking, right? So, Anne, you wanted to add something?
I did. I just want, of course, polyethylene glycol is my baby, and polyethylene glycol is listed in several of the patents for glyphosate. Polyethylene glycol is used as a humectant in dog food, and I suspect rat food. It moistens the food. So I suspect polyethylene glycol, which is also considered a neurotoxin, was also in those studies. And they throw all of this out. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are many other toxic chemicals, which I'm sure for a lot of us, polyethylene glycol, right, is a brand new word for us. It's in Miralax, right, Anne?
It is the one ingredient in Miralax, and it is in all of our shampoos, lotions. It is everywhere, and it is a neurotoxin. Yes, we need to be reading those labels.
Polyethylene glycol. Maybe you can put that in the chat so people who want to see how it's spelled and can look it up. That would be really great. And so it's in glyphosate, it's in shampoos, it's in lotions, it's in Miralax. If you want to find out more about the whole Miralax issue, please go to Facebook to the Parents Against Miralax. We really appreciate it when Anne came onto our Moms Connect call and brought that to our attention. Amber's saying it's an antifreeze. This sounds like one nasty chemical that we do not need to be exposed to. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. And hang on a second, Diane wants to say something. Yeah?
Just so you know, they produce enough wheat in this country to feed 18 billion people, and there's 24 billion people, and there's only 6 billion people on Earth. So what they do with the rest of it, all the wheat, they turn it into a powder, and it's a filler. It's in our prescriptions, it's in our lotions, it's in our vitamins, it's in our clothing, it's in our shampoos, just like the other chemicals she just mentioned. That's peculiar. They grow enough wheat to feed 24 billion people, and there's only 6 billion. So what are they doing with the other 18?
Interesting. I'd like to see the report or article showing that. I haven't heard that it's that much wheat. So yeah, they grow far more corn and soy and
they use glyphosate on wheat because
yes,
it's not always used for food consumption.
Yes. Yeah. So Amber is saying that the polyethylene glycol is a food conditioner, and it's why you find it in cake mix. Wow, it holds moisture and adds mouthfeel to things like Fireball and amaretto and coffee creamer. Oh, interesting. Sorry, guys who like that. Yeah, the mouthfeel. Food product developers talk about that a lot. There's also a sweetness level, right, that they need to hit. There's all these different, they very carefully craft our food-like products in order for them to be as addictive as possible, folks. They do. It is a very carefully crafted process that they go through. So
I like that statement, Zen. Food-like products. They're not food.
Yeah, they're not real food. Real food is seasonal, local, whole food that's packed with nutrients, grown in soil that has plenty of microbes and fungi and mycorrhizal and all that kind of stuff. So we want to eat real food as much as possible. Yes, Diane.
Look this up. SCION. It's a machine. I'm not sure how it is. The inventor of our product, he got it through channels that's not even on the market yet. What it is, and I think it goes with your phone, you put it up to the fruit or the vegetable in the produce department, and you know how everybody's organic now. You can actually put this up to the fruit and it'll tell you what chemicals are on it. How do you like that?
Is that out on the market yet? I heard that it was.
Sure. I'm not sure if it's out on the market.
I'm not sure that it's on the market. I think it's.
Dan has it. The inventor, he has it. He showed a picture. He showed me it, and it is available. I'm not sure if it's available, but it is in existence. So you can look it up. It's called Scion, SCION.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. And when that comes out in the market, that'll be great. Oh, so I do want to mention that we do have testing available now, test kits. I think I mentioned this last week, but if you want to test, I actually meant to do it today, but I haven't done it yet. I'm going to do on video some baby food testing for glyphosate. And hopefully maybe down the road we'll get some more tests to be able to do some hummus or some oatmeal or some things that, you know, we suspect to be high in glyphosate. And we will be releasing more test results very soon, so stay tuned for that. We just have to get a few more quotes from people. Yeah, it's important to know what's in your food, and also your hair testing. We do have tests on our website. We don't sell them directly. We just have affiliate links to them. So it supports our programs and all of that. So if you want to get your hair tested, that does show what's in your hair for up to a month versus just in your urine. That's like that little blip in time. So yeah, so that's on our website, momsacrossamerica.org, under action and testing. And you can find that. So let me see. I just want to, any other challenges anybody's facing with having your town go Roundup free? Okay, I'm going to unmute Isabel. Go ahead.
Okay, well, this is in my town. This is the school, the high school. That's here in town. It's a middle school and a high school. And I don't know if you remember, but in Connecticut, there is a law that prohibits the use of glyphosate around school grounds.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not entirely sure, like the whole law, because a few years later, I need some help like reading all those laws because I can't understand. I put in a call with Jeff to help me, but I haven't heard back from him. But maybe you guys can help me. So there was like, they kind of bypassed the law, and there's something about IPMs and integrated pest management plans, and that seemed to have passed. And so now I received a notice from the school saying like pesticide application policy. And so if I want to be on a list and notified before they apply pesticide. So anyway, I wrote them a big letter. I haven't sent it yet because I like just to put as much information on there as possible. So can I maybe send you the letter and you can
sure.
look it over?
Yeah.
And to add anything else?
Yes, if you send it, you can send me the letter. I'll take a look at it. And also do look at the letters that are already on our website. You can just copy and paste some of the paragraphs or points if you want to make sure they're in there. And do try to keep it as short as possible. We can't fit everything, 1 or 2 pages is going to be the max of what they want to look at. And usually 1 pager is best. And we do have a community data flyer, which does include a lot of the data about glyphosate and the harmful impact, and there's pretty pictures on it. So they like that. I mean, I've talked to legislators. What do you want? They said lots of pretty pictures, few words.
But I put in the link for the law firm that won the lawsuit because that has all the links of the, all the studies and everything that they use in the case. So I would think that's really important.
That is very important. To anything that is connected to a lawsuit is very important. And Anne wants to say something. Yes, Anne. Anne, I just unmuted you and you stood up. Okay. You want to say something? You were pointing to yourself. No?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I was playing with my earbuds.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. So, okay. And let's see. So you want to get them the articles and that letter and a follow-up, and as always, that I always mention, don't make them wrong. Okay. Have them be your partners you're reaching out to them in partnership for healthy communities. You're sure that they want healthy communities, that the safety of their kids and their pets and all that are important, and you're working in partnership with them. We do not want to make anybody wrong about the past use of Roundup and yell at them or don't you know what you're doing, you know, or, you know, like really, you know, we cannot come from that place. They're not going to listen to us. It's not going to be effective. So we really need to come from a place of partnership and to be a little patient. It's gonna take time. So, and then when it is their idea, let them take credit for it being their idea. I mean, that happened to us recently, you know, whose idea was this, and it was clearly his idea. So he's gonna take credit. That's totally fine with us. We just want them to stop spraying in our neighborhood.
Care less about my credit. I just feel terrible. It's just ridiculous, especially now with this lawsuit and everything that's out. It's everybody should just ban it. It's terrible.
Yes, absolutely.
Poison.
Yep, and they should ban it. And again, we cannot use the word ban in every county and sound intelligent, because in many counties they can no longer ban. They can just discontinue the use of glyphosate. So either way that you choose, we are for a ban, but you won't sound intelligent if you go to, in some states, to the city council and asking for a ban, because they're not allowed to. But you can say, we ask you to discontinue the use of glyphosate and all toxic chemicals, right? And move to an organic land care, organic land management. We must say the alternatives. Don't just say, just ban it, just stop it. You know, we got to say where we want them to move to. So I just want to ask Amber, you haven't been on with us a long time. Do you want to give us an update? Do you want to say what's going on with you? Do you have anything you want to add? Or are you frozen? Your picture looks frozen to me right now. Oh, there you are. Let me unmute you. Hang on. There you go. Do you want to say hi?
Hi. Yeah, hi. How's everybody doing?
We're all good.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, we've got lots of stuff happening in Washington State. The school's starting and fall's starting, which also means the timber companies are starting to spray. So we're putting a lot of pressure on in Kitsap and Snohomish County, particularly to try and stop sprays. There's some community meetings that are happening. The people in Kitsap are very riled up, and Pope is one of the larger corporations. They had over 800 acres they were planning to spray with glyphosate. Snohomish County is a little bit more tricky. I think the largest one's more about 200 acres, but there's multiple. And the thing we've come across is that you can get on the list, but you can't actually get the spray information unless you go to the meetings, which we've found a very difficult time happening, because they happen at like 2 p.m. on a Thursday, or they happen, and these are the forest managers and the timber companies putting out requests for proposals and getting back bids and going through that process of who gets awarded the job. And they won't make it public, and they won't disclose the information online. Like, you can't just get on a list. So that's been a little bit challenging, because it takes an army of people who are available and can sit through traffic and drive and find out the information that we need to know to mobilize the public. But there's also some bonus stories where, like, a mom just went to the city manager and said, "Hey, will you stop this?" He was like, "Sure," up in Marysville. So, you know, it really depends town to town. What we've found also is that countywide, especially in Washington, they've preempted us in a lot of areas. If you want to get anything on the ballot, you have 90 days to get like 200,000 signatures. So it's very, very, only the paid to play people get on the ballot is basically what's happened. And they've been pushing that for a long time in this state. So very difficult to change. But people are aware and active, but it's always just finding like the little jurisdiction, you know, and still continuing to push and pressure them. You know, Seattle has a very good policy. Bothell School District has an amazing policy that is great for copying. I'm happy to share that with anybody if they're looking for a comprehensive school district plan. But it really just depends on where the jurisdiction lies and what the rules are. But we found within each county, like the state is spraying large amounts of DNR land and it's education dollars. So it's very difficult. The agriculture, spray population has kind of maxed out. Like there's nobody else to do so. So they're looking for more customers. So they've gone to like timber management agencies and watershed resource managers. And they play this whole invasive species game and they get contracts to spray. So whether it's BT over the naval bases for the gypsy moth or glyphosate in the timber, even the state is a heavy use glyphosate user because their trust lands are supposed to be logged for timber to fund education. So, which is a huge other battle in the state. So it really just depends on what you're dealing with. You can go into Alaska, you're not going to find glyphosate. But you go into Canada and all these forest fires are being heavily doused with glyphosate up and down the entire West Coast.
So not the forest fires,
but people are really starting to wake up.
So the forest land is being doused with glyphosate after they cut, right, in order to prevent weed growth, so then they can replant in a couple weeks new trees.
They do. Yeah, so spring and fall, basically. They're trying to choke out any competitive trees, alder, maples, the trees that grow back in a clear cut. So they're spring, fall, and spring, which also gets trapped under the snow layers and melts into the rivers in the spring and fall, in the springtime, which is really awful. So when everybody's going fishing, and Alaska fishing's having horrible, horrible returns on salmon this year all over the state. And I mean, it's just like downplaying into so many issues. But when you're spraying a desiccant on a forest that you've made a monocrop, it's a tinderbox. So it's really
and to clarify on that, so when you spray a desiccant which dries things out, and it does that with the mechanism of being a chelator, it holds or makes unavailable the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches. So that means it's killing it. It's giving, it's basically giving it AIDS, right? It has no vital nutrients anymore. They're killing it
and no immune system.
Yeah, no immune system, and dead things burn, right? Dry, brittle, dead things burn much more quickly.
So do we have genetically modified trees that they're planting? Is that what's going on? Because I know in Silent
we have a few. Forest, we have a few test plots. I don't know of any like large farms that are GE, but they would definitely like that for sure, because then they could spray. They would spray and not have issues, But the problem is that when you have a single monocrop, whether it's corn or a fir tree, you don't have a variance in the soil in your depth of roots. And so they can't bring water up from the water table, which would naturally keep the soil's drier in general, the top layers of the soil, because there's no other trees. And Fukushima and radiation is definitely a piece of that too, because it's also heating things up. Like the hotter we get, the faster we get, the worse it gets. And I know we've talked a lot about what's going on in Florida. There's also a phosphate mine in Idaho that is, these phosphate mines are not only radioactive and make radioactive waste, but that's where the phosphorus is coming from that's making fertilizers, that's making fluoride, that's making white sulfur used in weapons of war. And it's just always been that way. And so wherever you find these large fertilizer productions, you're going to find Monsanto or toxic chemicals, and you're going to find high radiation levels. And that's what's feeding, these mining operations are what's feeding the manufacturing of glyphosate, basically, because it's easier for companies to sell their toxic chemicals off as something else for profit than it is to responsibly dispose of them. So they look for a different market for a byproduct to resell them into the market so that it's a profit circle.
Yeah, I think it was Michael Hansen that said, I'm not sure that these chemicals like arsenic and these heavy metals and these petroleum-based products aren't in Roundup just to get rid of them. Like they're just a byproduct, you know, of all this either fracking or, you know, waste from making plastic or making, right? Like they take these heavy metals out, they make stuff out of them. There's byproducts. They got to do something with these byproducts. So they probably have agreements with these pesticide companies like, hey, we'll just throw it in the pesticides and the herbicides. Let's woohoo, you know, we can get rid of it and spray it on your food and don't worry, it'll dry off. It'll become render itself harmless, right? After that. But yeah, it's all dependent. That's one reason. Go ahead.
They're just because they're never tested in combination. So if one chemical is safe in any application, which we know how they operate and, you know, manufacture their data, they're going to use it in everything from, you know, that's why the polypropylene glyphosate, or can't even say it, is in, you know, in cake products. It's in, you know, it's in food softeners because it's too difficult to dispose of it. So they'd rather find markets for it and sell the virtues of it instead.
Yeah, like fluoride in toothpaste, as Frankie mentions, right? They got to stick it somewhere. They got to put it somewhere. So the jig is up, though. There are so many of us now that know about this and that are speaking up and that are standing up for our communities. I am very inspired and very excited about what's happening across the country, and people like you, Amber, that, you know, just learn what's going on and speak up about it and share. As Mr. Tsui, who's a famous talk show host in China, came to my house to interview us around the time of GMOs Revealed, or that documentary Bought being filmed. And when he heard Kathleen, my friend Kathleen, who was with me at the time, also being interviewed, and I talking about glyphosate, he looked at us and he just said, Monsanto has turned moms into scientists. Like, he couldn't get over how much we knew about the science and how it functions. And so anybody that says that we're anti-science and that we're just emotional or whatever, they're completely not getting what's going on here. We are learning more about what's going on with these chemicals than most doctors. And, you know, well, there's a lot of doctors getting on board now, but we're learning what's going on because we're reading the science, because we're reading the articles, because we're really reading the impact of everything. So yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up. It's very daunting, but hey, all we need is a pesticide applicator from the forestry industry to step forward in one of these lawsuits, and then that will, right, also unveil a whole impact of what's going on there. Or somebody who lives in one of these forestry areas. I know there's plenty. I talked to a guy up in Oregon, lives right next to that whole area. They would just drive the plane right over, spray right over his house, and he'd be sick for weeks and all of that. And I want to point out that they can spray on this forestry land and then wait a few weeks and then plant. So I want people to understand you can still plant and things can still grow a few weeks after Roundup is sprayed. They do this with the grass in New Zealand, you know, the grass-fed lamb and beef. In some cases, it's been sprayed with Roundup and then they plant new grass in several weeks later in order to have more nutritious grass. So you can plant in that and it can grow. They have to wait a little bit, but it's not as nutritious. I mean, it's chelating the vital minerals and nutrients out of it. So you got to imagine that trees that have been planted in that soil, they're uptaking the Roundup. They are going to be weaker trees. They're going to have less vitamins and minerals and nutrients in those trees, and weaker trees equals drier trees equals more tinder for fires, right? So it's not direct causational. It's a part of, you know, what happens when you deplete anything of vital minerals and nutrients. Yes, Lori, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so they now have that Kitsap group, the Kitsap Environmental Coalition. They were just on Facebook, as far as I know. I just came late to the party, but and I live in Kitsap. But now they have their own website, the KitsapEnvironmentalCoalition.org.
There are environmental groups cropping up all over the place. It is so exciting. This is the beginning of the end of this chemical era, and it is happening. And I'm excited for people like Diane that came on talking about a product that takes these minerals, you know, puts the minerals back in the soil and replenishes. We're going to find out more about that later once I get a chance to review it. But there are things happening all across the country where people are moving towards regenerative agriculture and safe, toxin-free community towns. But we still have more of our job to do. I have to share, this came up for me this week. This is absolutely insane. The Colombians came up with an innovative way of combating the cultivation of drugs. Oh, so innovative. It's spraying glyphosate with drones instead of with an airplane, because airplanes, they're saying, down here, it says, Colombia has used herbicides to combat cocoa plantations. Is that cocoa or coca? I'm not, maybe not saying, cocaine plantations in 2001, but in 2016, the government stopped this practice. The fact that the World Health Organization acknowledged glyphosate is harmful to health, carcinogen, right? And contact with the chemical in water can lead to various diseases among the local population. However, the drones will allow to cope with this problem. Really? Autonomous aircraft, glyphosate dropped from the height of 2 meters, and the recognition system that helps to separate the coca or cocaine plant, right, from corn, rice, coffee, and other crops, and avoid spraying chemicals near water. Drones have already destroyed about 90% of it for every 0.4 hectare of land during tests in one of the provinces of coca. So I'm not for cocaine, but I am not for spraying our carcinogen on the soil in any manner, because it's going to leach into the water and it's going to destroy the soil and it's going to drift. So, the use of spraying glyphosate with drones is it's a whole nother, we really pray for the people in Colombia that that they speak up and that they stop this practice, because this is very dangerous. They could start using drones in certain wilderness areas, like again, in the, the forestry areas and certain areas of parks. And therefore, then they avert the risk of having that pesticide applicator sue for harm, right? They're no longer using a human to spray, so that person can't sue them. They're using a drone. But, guess who gets hurt? It's the people that live downstream from where that spraying is. So absolutely unacceptable. And one other thing I want to bring to everybody's attention as well, I need to, screen share again, but I was very unhappy to hear that the Japanese government has permitted the use of CRISPR. So the Japanese committee recommends no regulation for some gene editing, which is CRISPR. It is, I don't remember exactly what that stands for. I'm sorry if you want to know exactly what CRISPR stands for. It's some very long scientific name that I don't remember the name of it, but it is, oops, what happened here? Sorry, I have to go back. Okay, here. So it is very unfortunate that gene editing, right, is being allowed. So that means it involves switching off or deleting genes that are already present in the genetic code of the organisms. And they're saying that should not require government approval. Now, they did say they recommend the creation of a thoroughgoing information management system on organisms with edited genomes, under which the types and purposes of all organisms that fell outside of GMO restrictions would have to be reported to authorities, with the exception of those produced at closed facilities for microorganisms. And of course, the consumer groups are not happy about this. In late July, the EU top court ruled that crops created with genome editing methods should, in principle, come under existing laws of GMOs. And in contrast, the US announced in late March that it did not plan to regulate CRISPR edited crops the same as GMOs. So this is a really unfortunate turn of events because it's, and this is not just because we're like, oh, we're against science, like we don't want something that sounds complicated in our food supply. No, it's because the preliminary science shows, one of them was a study that showed 1,600 off-target mutations. Another one shows cell toxicity and even the possibility of cancer, tumor growth. And so what we're talking about is, is serious harm. And this is just in a few preliminary studies. Now, I need to be clear that the one that showed 1,600 off-target mutations was retracted with no statement of why it was retracted, really, from what I could see. I would like to see the proof of why it was retracted. What do you mean? If somebody says, accuses somebody in court of a crime, right, the other people have to disprove it. Well, how come a paper can be retracted and there's nothing put out about, really, from what I've seen? Maybe they have. If somebody has it, please show it to me. But so 1,600 off-target mutations didn't happen? all of a sudden, peer-reviewed study. I think that maybe somebody just didn't like it, that was published and influenced the journal to retract it.
Do you remember who the author was?
I'll have to look that up, but yeah, I'd like to find out.
Good to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would be good. Yeah, I don't have it memorized.
Author.
Yeah, well, it's out there. It's on our website, I'm sure too. That particular paper, but yeah, it was. But there have been 2 papers follow-up since then that showed that off-target mutations happen. They just didn't mention 1600, but they said off-target mutations happened and cell toxicity, and in one case even cancer growth or something like that. So this is what happens. You can't edit out a gene and expect nothing else to be impacted. You just can't. You can't take a vertebrae out of your spine and expect you to still function as a human being. Give me a break, So yeah, it's not working out. But we need to be more vocal about it. I would like for Moms Across America and other groups to propose a moratorium until these things are proven safe. And I get a lot of, oh, that's not going to happen. A ban's not going to happen. It's already they already have CRISPR mushrooms and what is the other one? Corn available. I believe they're already may even be in the marketplace. I'm not sure, but they have approved them. So I don't know if they're in the marketplace or not yet, but I have to check on that. So they're being approved. So I really think that we need to speak up and instead of being, the cart behind the horse, I think we need to get in front of this and put a statement out or demand and work on having our legislators know that we want a moratorium on these technologies, these methodologies that they're putting in our food. So yeah. So yes, Frankie's mentioning CRISPR children. Yeah, they could absolutely be genetically engineering human beings with this. They could edit out certain features, certain colors of eyes or certain features. The point is they want to edit out tendencies to have certain diseases, which I totally understand. If I had a child with a certain disease, I would want to find a way to have that not happen, right? But when you edit one thing out, what's going to happen in place of that? Yes, Amber?
A couple points on that is in Japan, not only because of their food and high soy consumption, but and stress, but they have a very, very high miscarriage rate, and fertility is big, big business. And I remember a couple of years ago, we were looking at some of the new glyphosate patents, and one of them was for a nanotech gel that they were actually going to use in condoms. Also, the company was one of the major condom makers in Japan, and they were also going to be using it on plants. And so basically when you're combining nanotechnology and glyphosate at a cellular level, you're just instant death. So yeah, greatest spermicidal condoms in the world, you just are going to suffer the repercussions and then some. So fertility is big, big business in Japan, and it's a ton of money. And that's why the people who can pay to have designer children, because they know they're barely going to maybe have one or two, want to know exactly what they're getting and are willing to pay for it. And it's a really big deal. The other point I was going to make was going back to Colombia, and that glyphosate was first introduced into the cocoa fields by the Army. And so during the early 80s, we went down and sprayed thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of glyphosate until we realized, because we thought we were killing it, but we were really just drying it for the Colombians. And you find that same thing in Afghanistan with the poppy fields. So it starts out as a military issue, and then it becomes, when we left there, then all of a sudden everything was back to normal and growing. And then the government decided they got bought into the same thing, that they should take over doing something about it by the chemical companies to continue their sales. So, some serious points everywhere we go into war, whether it's Vietnam or Iraq, we take over their seeds, we spray them full of toxic poison and cause hundreds of years of damage.
Sorry, can you say that last part again? It was somebody had the, they were unmuted. Can you say that last part again?
Yeah, whenever you find conflict in the world, you find chemical companies spraying awful chemicals, whether it's Agent Orange in Vietnam or glyphosate in Central America. And then you get to a point where we come in, we take over seed rights, and then people don't migrate to different parts of the world until there's no food and clean water.
Right.
But when you look all throughout history, it all comes back to food and water, and they choose to leave and emigrate somewhere when that's damaged. And so throughout, the last 40 years of conflict, you can find that same pattern that we've mostly started in the U.S., but has lasting impacts around the world. And then they continue it after we leave, sadly.
Yeah, it's this whole colonialism, right, mentality where you go in, you take over, and then you help them out by giving them GMO seeds to plant corn. And so meanwhile, their local crops, the peas, the cowpeas, the beans, and things that they grow for their local people go away. So, the GMO crops take over that, all of their local fields. And yeah, there was another point too I wanted to make about the colonizing and coming in there. I don't know. They tell them it's safe. They give it to them for free first, right? They say this is like this. You got to have progress. The United States has been using it, so you need to use it. It's a whole game. And then of course the chemical companies get these contracts that they're tied in with the military companies, and these chemicals can't be made without big oil. So big oil is in, is in the cahoots with it, right? They have to have all of the off products from big oil. So yeah, they're in cahoots around it. Yeah.
And don't forget the vaccine programs, especially in third world countries, because we put millions of dollars into that, and the food programs. The food that we send to starving people is like Pop-Tarts, and it's about the worst thing you can do to anybody who's hungry. It's really awful.
Yes. Oh, I remember what my other point was too, was in addition to spraying these toxic chemicals all over the ground and polluting their soil and water, and depleting the resource of the clean food and clean water and plentiful food, which would then make them migrate. Also, the people who stay there are getting sprayed with these chemicals, which are neurotoxins, which has them become more violent. It can increase violence. And so what are we seeing in these South American countries, which are being inundated with these toxins, is increased gang violence, right? It's increased all kinds of mental health issues. And so then where do they want to go? They want to come to the United States, because they want to get away from the violence. They want to get some food. And so the United States is a major factor, I think, in contributing to, I don't want to say cause, but contributing to a lot of this migration away from areas where they have poor water quality, low food access, and violence. And we know this, we've seen this. I've talked to a woman who lives in Chicago. Her whole city was sprayed with mosquitoes, and she saw a rash of violence after the spraying for mosquitoes. And you can see that in Chicago this past summer. I think it was July 4th weekend. There were record numbers of people shot. In hours, there were 43 people shot, record numbers of people shot. And yes, Ann?
That was about, they had just sprayed for mosquitoes?
That happens very often after they spray for mosquitoes. Yes, Chicago is very often sprayed for mosquitoes.
Oh my goodness. Well, as a nurse, we see the elderly people, after we used to spray for mosquitoes, they would all end up in the ICU. Even some of the younger, healthier 30-year-olds, but the young people with the testosterone, that makes sense that violence would come out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing about South America too, if you look at places like El Salvador and then compare them like liver disease and cancer rates, it mirrors Sri Lanka, which happened same thing, where because of the agro industries and chemicals, they killed off all the fathers, where you have a country with large family sizes and all of a sudden the breadwinner has died in his 40s and you've got 10 teenage kids to feed, you get heavily influenced into the gang violence because they're out there having to work and being, taking a generation that has been killed basically.
And they don't have father figures,
No, they have no parents and they're huge responsibilities, and that's all their choices are. And we choose to not talk about it often.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it, and there are more and more activists like Vandana Shiva in India that's talking about the 250,000 farmers, mostly men, right, male farmers, leaders of their households that have killed themselves drinking pesticides, due to the fact that their farms were so in debt from the GMO cotton. But that tide is turning. I thank goodness she has spoken up so much about that the really public awareness has shifted, and many areas of India no longer accept GMO cotton crops and many other crops too. She's fought and sued Monsanto many times. I think they wanted it was like a type of eggplant or something that they wanted. They come in and they get the seeds of some of the most common plants that they grow and eat, like staples to their to their food supply, and they genetically modify them and say they're going to make them a little bit better, and then they try to take over the whole seed supply, right? So they did that with several different varieties. I think mustard seed and a plant. Oh yeah, sorry, brinjali eggplant. Thank you, Frankie. It was BT, and they tried to do that, and they lost a lot of, I don't know how many, but at least a couple of lawsuits which would have allowed them to patent food. So that's at the source of much of this, is that somewhere along the line, somebody in the patent agencies decided it would be a great idea for companies to be able to patent life. So that's where a lot
of... And they also kicked the Gates Foundation out, which was huge for their women and children.
Oh, in these South American countries, you mean, or in India?
In India. South America is putting a lot of pressure on, so that's good. The U.S. is really needing to put a lot more on, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, we absolutely are. Oh, and yeah, Anne is mentioning that. Did you see that the country of Vietnam is suing Monsanto to compensate the victims of Agent Orange? And I think if anybody has a rightful place in line to sue Monsanto, it's the people of Vietnam, right? So another interesting little factoid is that during the trial of Johnson versus Monsanto, the plaintiff's lawyer, Johnson's lawyer, was not able to use the word Agent Orange. He was not able to mention that Monsanto was a manufacturer of Agent Orange. So, there's just all kinds of ridiculousness that went on during that trial. Like they weren't able to share or show at least 80% of the documents that they wanted to show. But there's more trials to come. Last I saw, there's 5,000 people lined up to sue. They expect 10,000 by the fall. And there are other law firms that are now getting on board. And just FYI, it's a good thing that all these other law firms like Baum, Headlam, and Miller, and Madonna law firm, with Robert F. Kennedy, can't do them all. And the head lawyer from one of the law firms said that we need 44. We have 4 law firms suing Monsanto. We need 44. So if there are other law firms that are willing to take this on, that is a very good thing. And don't feel disloyal by recommending them to other law firms. They need all the ammo they can get, and they need a lot of lawyers taking this on. So I'm sorry. A lot of people's fathers had exposure in Vietnam. I know a lot of people whose brothers and friends and fathers, and they themselves or their children may be experiencing health issues because their father was exposed. It goes on for generations. So no, I didn't read the Monsanto's rebuttal to Vietnam's claims, and frankly, I don't really care. What do they have to say about it? I don't care. They harmed the people of Vietnam, and it's like these trolls. By the way, I do want to say there was a particular troll out there. I have a nickname for him on it, but it's not ladylike for me to say it. He did put an article out there that said that somehow Monsanto had hired me, and they had breast milk pump stations in their office to spike them with Roundup and then send them in for testing, as if that would make any sense for Monsanto at all, for Roundup to be in breast milk, like how that would work for them. It doesn't work in their favor. So he put this article out. It was completely insane, totally, ridiculous lies. Monsanto never hired me for anything. I'm sure they can't stand me. And so we told them that it was liable and we could take action and all this kind of stuff. We talked to lawyers. And his response was F off. That's what his response was. However, he said, I've talked to lawyers too, and my response is F off, right? And so then we contacted the website that hosted it, and they did have it changed to satire and fiction. the article.
Oh.
Which was good. They didn't take it down, but the lawyers that I talked to said, okay, well, at least they had to label it satire and fiction. This person has also put a petition up saying to change out to governors, right? Because remember we did 50 states ask governors to ban glyphosate. So he did a petition on change.org saying, ignore Zen Honeycutt, she's a loon. so just FYI, it's out there. I know it. I don't really have any time to give to it. And I'm not interested in being baited to sue because it's a lot of paperwork and they just want a reason to say like, okay, so you're not hired by Monsanto, so show us all your financials, which is, I don't have anything to hide, folks. Okay. We don't make a lot of money doing this. I have enough to pay the bills. That's it. But, you know, it's not in my best interest to have to go through every single all the paperwork. Like for instance, the lawsuit that happened recently, the Nature Valley lawsuit, you saw the press release, I don't know if people saw, they settled, right? So they removed 100% natural whole grain oats off the package. Really, really awesome. And I can't say anything else about the settlement because they make you like, this is the press release, this is all you can say, right? But I can say the experience of being sued of suing, and not just being sued, but we weren't sued, but of suing is also a pain in the butt because they have the discovery process and they can say, okay, we want to see every single article that you've ever written or emailed using the word glyphosate. Really? You know, and we want to see every single email that you've ever written with the word oats, you know, or Nature Valley. Like they just try to make it as laborious as possible. So I know, I have a feeling that what some of these people are up to when they try to bait me, you know, is just to take up my time in a stupid lawsuit. And I'm not interested in that. So anyway, we're over time, but I just wanted to address that I know what's going on. I'm aware of it and I'm not going to give it any more time than is needed. So.
Hey, Zen,
Yes.
I just wanted to say I joined late, so I'm so sorry about that. But I just want to say what an absolute powerhouse you are.
Oh,
congratulations to all of the latest things. And your interview with Stephanie Sinet about Florida, where I live, was just phenomenal. And I don't know if you talked about that. I'm just wondering how you can get those of us in Florida to become more cohesive in our fight against the glyphosate.
Oh, Ann, where are you located, Ann? Because I'm in
Northwest Florida, Pensacola.
Okay, well, I'm running a demonstration and a ban glyphosate in our community in Martin County because of the toxic algae and a few other things that it's causing. So,
and Julie, we're sending out that email for you to all the Florida residents. I'm working on it. It was supposed to go out today, but we had a snafu with the person working on it. So we're I'm gonna do it as soon as I possibly can. I'm gonna send out to all the Florida residents that have, you know, our supporters of Moms Across America. And we're applying for a grant. It's been insinuated that we might get it. So I've tried to ask people in, I forgot what group it is, some Clean Water Florida group, like, what do you guys need? How can we channel this money to give you what you need to make this happen, right? To ban glyphosate in Florida and to stop the growth of the green toxic algae, which then is drained into the ocean and contributes to the growth of red tide, right? We know now that this is what's happening. Many different cities know that glyphosate is contributing to green algae. So what we're thinking is more testing, because not just the water with the green algae needs to be tested, because the green algae eats up, it's called cyanobacteria, it eats up the glyphosate. So if we test that
glyphosate, it loves it.
Yeah, so we may not find it in there in order to link to it. We need to test the water that before it gets into Lake Okeechobee, right? The irrigation water. So we need some testing there, and we need.
But Zen, they're dumping 5 to 10 boats a day are dumping glyphosate into the lake. So even if it's cleaned up upstream, it's still going. We need to stop what's going on in the lake. And each county that is connected to the lake has some jurisdiction over their section of the lake. So it's every single county around the lake. And it's the Corps of Engineers. Well, I found out that it could be some of the engineering department right in our Martin County. So if that's the case, then it's every single county we have to deal with, along with the Corps of Engineers dumping tons in.
Okay.
And that is controlled by committees above the Corps, because the Corps says we're just doing what we're told to do. So they're not taking responsibility for what they're doing.
Right. Okay. So, so Amber's saying shut down Mosaic. Yeah. Which the amount of money that we can get for this grant is not going to do that. It's just a couple $1,000s, but it's, you know, something that we can help towards is media and maybe, you know, flyers or pamphlets that target certain people. Like if you need to target the people above the Corps of Engineers. Julie, would you just email me a little wish list, or Ann?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody
Right.
that's connected
Do you
to
have a
this?
Spanish flyer that I can hand out to my illegal
Yes.
Spanish speaking people?
Yeah, we do on Action under, so actually it's on materials, get materials. And it's also under, I think it's under the Toxin Free Town campaign. Also, we have a Spanish flyer that's
And
for
we do have one commissioner that is on our side. We actually have about 4 of them now out of the 5. So we're pretty sure we're going to get it banned. And that'll be on 9/25. So they've put it off a little bit. But one commissioner is going to set up a retraining program for all the landscapers that are in the area. And so they will be certified that they're going to be toxin free.
So who's setting that up for the landscapers?
One of our commissioners, Commissioner Jenkins.
Okay. So just FYI also, the North American Organic Farmers Association, that this guy Jeff that Isabel knows, their organization will come to Florida. If you can just arrange for 40 people to get the training, they will come to Florida and train people on organic land care.
Oh, really?
Yes. So maybe one thing we could do with that grant is to help fund their flight, or to help, you know, somebody with organizing, like renting a hall, you know, or something.
I can do that. I rent halls in my area.
You do? Okay. So
yeah, we have a farm in the center of Martin County in Stewart right now called Ground Floor Farm.
So if you don't have organic land care lecturers in Florida, then the Connecticut Northeast Organic Farmers Association does. And Isabel just gave you the link to them, CT NOFA. They have a whole training course. They've been doing this for decades, and they can train people. So that is crucial. Bringing the solution, I think, is super important in that area. And I appreciate you being on the call tonight and asking that question, because this has to stop. The mass destruction that is happening to marine life is so heartbreaking. I can't even.
Well, what's happening to our children? Right now, I heard a lecture from the University of Miami, and the BMAA toxin is in all our sea life that is sourced from toxic areas, which is being sold into all our homes.
What is BMA?
It's a neurotoxin, and it's carcinogenic, and you can't get it out of your system once it's in it.
And it's in marine life?
Yeah, it's in sea life. So it would be oysters, and it was just amazing. There were about 300 in the lecture when the PhD lectured. I will try to get a link to that, because I think they videotaped it.
Yeah, we need people to know that the seafood.
They've got to stop it, or raise their own fish, because it's terrible. I can't even go to the market anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really good reasons to go vegan, folks. It's just getting more and more depressing.
Again, you know, we still got to watch how they're growing it, because we had that certified organic citrus grove. Frank and I went up there, Frank Dean and I, and found out that they had citrus greening from using manure, and they were allowed to use the manure from the GMO fed cows, which brought in the glyphosate. So you've got to be able to treat the manure before you put it on, and Frank's product can do that.
Okay. All right. Great. And you'll let us know about that. And yeah, another thing.
So much information.
More news out too about organic milk not really being organic. I talked to a farmer. I'm going to talk to him again. So did you know that as far as the GMO free certification goes, you know, for non-GMO milk and all of that, they just say that 5% of that ingredient, the GMO ingredients have to be the feed must be made up of less than 5% of that ingredient must be GMO. So you can have 4.9% GMO corn, 4.9% GMO soy, 4.9% GMO alfalfa, 4.9% GMO whatever, sugar cane, like whatever, pulp or what, in feed that's fed to cows, and then that milk can be deemed non-GMO, project verified.
Right, but non-GMO, they can still spray glyphosate.
Yes, that too. But I'm just saying that the non-GMO project label allows for up to 5% of any one particular ingredient to be GMO in the animal feed. So you can have multiple different GMO, grains or feeds. And so there can be 15 to 20%, right, of the feed can be GMO, heavily sprayed with glyphosate.
Certified organic. You can only go.
There's loopholes. So yeah, you have to go organic, and even then there's so many loopholes. So we are the best we can do is to buy organic, but we cannot just say, okay, this is done. This is the beginning of the end of the chemical area. It's not the end. We need to keep going. We need to stay on these people. We need to ask them the tough questions, and it will be difficult. They will be very uncomfortable. I met with one of the president or heads of Dannon Wave, right? And he was very uncomfortable that I brought up the fact that we need organic. He's like, it took us 3 years and we've got a lot of non-GMO. We're the biggest providers of non-GMO dairy, blah, 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 right? And I said, yeah, but it's not enough. They're eating grain sprayed with glyphosate. Glyphosate's in the milk, and he was not thrilled that I was saying that. But, you have to have those uncomfortable conversations to hold these people to account. And that's what we're doing more and more. And we hope that all of you are too.
The article that you published, the orange juice article, is wonderful. I've been able to use that several times.
Oh, great. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we want to make a difference with the orange the orange growers and the sugarcane growers in Florida, right? And also the conservationists. You've seen that they're spraying Aquamaster right in the Everglades, all over the Everglades in Florida. It's used in the water. And south of Lake Okeechobee, the childhood cancer rates are 36 times higher. Yep. 36 times higher than other areas in the state. Not 1%, not 2%, 36% higher. So, and that was 2 years ago that article came out in Fox News. So, so we have to get on this. I'm going to do whatever I can do. I'm going to apply for this grant as soon as possible, and whatever we can do in Florida to get glyphosate banned and to have the waters be clean and have it be healthy down there. Now's the time. The good thing about breakdowns, and this is a massive, massive breakdown, right? The marine death is that there's always a breakthrough. So let's just look for what that breakthrough can be, and let's create that together and have Florida go glyphosate free.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, it was lovely talking to all of you ladies. I really appreciate your input. Diane, I'm looking for an email from you about this product. Julie, you mentioned a product as well, some kind of product.
Yeah, it's Frank Dean's product, NutriSmart, that we're using to restore the citrus groves. And I also have another one. It's a liquid. So glyphosate's in the air. Those big industrial farms, they spray so much, it gets in the clouds, it comes over 2 or 3, 4 states, and it rains down. So it's constantly being bombarded onto our land, even though we're doing organic gardening. So and it does kill the microorganisms, but Frank's product, you can put it a couple times a year, you can spread it out, and that will put the microorganisms back in the soil, plus neutralize the glyphosate, but still in your standing water. We can also put NutriSmart around standing water so that the runoff is neutralized before it gets in, so we don't get the glyphosate in the runoff in the water system.
In the first place.
But the liquid that I have is also good because if you've got animals, it even neutralizes fluoride. So I've been working with the equestrian people as well, and also on putting it on pastures so that we can have higher nutrient quality on the grasses.
Okay, so both of you ladies need to email me the names of these products so that we can check them out. We can't promote anything that we haven't actually looked into. Well, and you can put it in the chat box down here just publicly when I put this out. We can't promote things that we haven't looked into. So we'll look into that, and we can. I don't know if I can get everybody's email and then email you afterwards. I don't know if I can do that. If I can, I will. If not, you've all liked our page and you get notifications on Facebook and you all get our newsletter, we will, as soon as we can, put something in the newsletter about further solutions. Okay. And yeah, we appreciate, just as long as it's not an MLM. Yeah, we can't do multi-level. We're not going to be anybody's downline.
No, it's not. I don't even sell the stuff. All I want to do is give people access to it, and they're all lab tested. So
great. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Mwah. Great to see you, Amber. Thank you so much for being on. Give a big kiss to your girls. Okay. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.